It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. That opening line just, it drops you right in, straight into Winston Smith's world in Victory Mansions, where everything is off, everything is wrong.
And you can smell it, can't you? The boiled cabbage and the old rag mats.
Exactly. So today, we are pulling directly from that source material, George Orwell's 1984.
And our goal is a proper deep dive. We want to get into the precise, almost terrifying mechanics of Oceania. How did Orwell build this blueprint for the ultimate totalitarian society?
And why does it still feel so relevant?
Yeah.
Before we get into Big Brother's rules, though, let's talk about the man who created him, Eric Arthur Blair, or as we all know him, George Orwell.
Right, and it's so important to remember he wasn't just writing some fantasy. This was a warning, and it was based on some really hard-earned knowledge.
He saw it all firsthand.
He really did. He was born in British India, went to Eton, and then, he served in the Indian Imperial Police. Those experiences really cemented his hatred for imperialism.
He became a democratic socialist. But the key ingredient here, the thing that really defines 1984, is his anti-Stalinism.
Absolutely. That is the key. His time fighting in the Spanish Civil War. I mean, that was it. He witnessed the communist purges in Barcelona. He wrote about it in Homage to Catalonia. And that's where he saw how revolutionary ideals could just be twisted.
Into what?
Into absolute ideological tyranny, a world where objective truth is the first thing to go. His early books, like Down and Out in Paris and London, showed the human cost of poverty. But 1984... that showed him how that same poverty could be weaponized.
So this isn't a dystopia that just sort of happened. It's an engineered machine. And it starts with the setting itself, the physical reality of Oceania.
Yes.
First thing you notice with Winston is just the dinginess of it all. I mean, he's an outer party member. He should have it okay. But life is physically repellent.
He's only 39, and he has this painful varicose ulcer.
And nothing worked.
Nothing. The lifts are always broken. And that's not an accident. We're told it's part of an economy drive for things like hate week. It's a kind of architecture of fatigue. You're kept physically uncomfortable so you don't have the energy for independent thought.
And the stuff they have, the commodities, they're just as bad.
Oh, they're terrible. The Victory gin tastes like nitric acid.
It hits you like a rubber club, he says.
And the Victory cigarettes just fall apart in your hands. Everything is designed to be just good enough to function, but bad enough to keep you miserable and anxious.
Which makes you easy to manipulate.
Exactly. But all that discomfort, it's secondary to the main event. The surveillance, the watching,
the telescreen,
the omnipresent telescreen. It's never off. It's constantly blaring military music, propaganda, and it's watching you and listening. The party can even check your pulse rate through it. You are never, ever alone.
And then there's that face, the poster of Big Brother hanging everywhere.
That enormous face, more than a meter wide. And the genius of it, the truly creepy part, is that the eyes are designed to follow you no matter where you stand, and that caption, Big Brother is watching you. It's both a threat and this weirdly protective promise.
And that constant sense of being watched leads directly to the core crime of the state.
Thought crime. The essential crime isn't doing something wrong, it's the potential for thinking something wrong.
The book is explicit about this. Thought crime has death.
Yes, you're already dead the moment you think it, and you don't even have to say it. There's face crime, just wearing the wrong expression, looking skeptical when a victory is announced. That little flicker in your eyes can doom you.
A momentary lapse becomes a capital offense. And the most chilling part of this whole system is how it turns the home, the family, into a trap.
The spies and the youth league organizations.
Yeah, the family unit is just completely weaponized. How far does the book go on that?
The detail is horrifying. Children are turned into, quote, ungovernable little savages, but all that ferocity is pointed outwards against the enemies of the state.
We see that with the Parsons children. They're constantly screaming at Winston.
Thought criminal. Eurasian spy. The book says almost everyone over 30 was terrified of their own kids. These children were encouraged to denounce their parents. They were called child heroes in the Times.
And they're even given equipment. I mean, that detail about the toy ear trumpet for listening through keyholes, it's just so banal and so terrifying.
It gives them the means and the ideological permission to destroy their own family.
Okay, so you're being watched constantly. The next step is to control what you see and what you know. This brings us to Winston's job at the Ministry of Truth, Minute True.
In the Records Department, RECDP. This is the operational side of reality control.
How exactly does it work?
Well, the party has to be infallible, which means the past has to constantly change to match the present. So Winston's job is to rectify old reports, changing Big Brother's speeches, updating forecasts, you name it. The lie becomes truth the moment the forgery is forgotten.
There's that one really specific example with the chocolate ration.
Oh yeah, the famous one. The ration was actually cut from 30 grams to 20. But the telescreen immediately announces that Big Brother has just raised the ration to 20 grams.
So a reduction is reported as a gain.
And because all the old records go down the memory hole, there's no proof it was ever any different.
And what happens if a person becomes an inconvenience?
Then they become an unperson. They just cease to exist, not just physically, but historically. Winston gets a note about someone named Withers, and the memo says, refs unpersons. That means Withers is already gone, erased.
But they can also create people out of thin air.
Right, like Comrade Ogilvy.
Yeah.
Winston just invents this perfect party hero, a guy who joined the spies at 6, denounced his uncle at 11, designed a grenade, a complete fabrication. But once the paperwork is filed, Ogilvy is as real as Charlemagne.
Yet Winston had that one moment, that one piece of concrete evidence to prove the whole system was a lie.
The photograph, yeah. For a few seconds, he held a photo that proved 3 executed party members. Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford were in New York when they had confessed to being in Eurasia. It was objective proof.
A fragment of the abolished past.
And he destroyed it, of course, but the knowledge that the past was actively erased and that the lie became truth, that stuck with him. It showed him just how fragile reality is.
But they don't just control history. They control the very tool you use to think about it. Language.
Which brings us to Newspeak, the ultimate form of thought control.
How does it work?
Simi, the language expert in the book, explains it. The whole aim is to narrow the range of thought. By making the vocabulary smaller every year, they plan to make thought crime literally impossible by 2050.
Because if you don't have the words for rebellion, you can't actually rebel.
Can you even think the thought? Take the word free. In Newspeak, you can say a dog is free from lice, but you can't say a person is intellectually free. The concept itself is being erased from consciousness.
And then there are words like duck speak.
Which means to quack like a duck. But if you're quacking orthodox opinions, it's high praise. It's a way to reward thoughtless conformity. Even the abbreviations, mini-PACs for the Ministry of Peace, Thinkhole for the Thought Police, they're designed to strip away the old, complex associations the original words had.
Just short, clipped words?
Uttered rapidly, rousing the minimum of echoes in the speaker's mind. It's psychological warfare built right into the dictionary.
But language control is a long-term project. For the day-to-day, the party needs a psychological engine. And that's the 2 in a tape.
It's mandatory mass psychosis. It's designed to channel all that pent-up frustration into approved targets. The main target is always Emmanuel Goldstein, the enemy of the people.
Described with that lean Jewish face and a sheep-like voice, he's the supposed leader of the Brotherhood.
And during the 2 minutes hate, people go into a frenzy, screaming, throwing things, but the rage isn't stable.
What do you mean?
Winston notes his hatred can switch targets in a second, from Goldstein to Big Brother, then to the dark-haired girl, Julia, but it always ends the same way.
Goldstein's face melts into the face of a Eurasian soldier, and then that melts into the calm, strong face of Big Brother.
And then the 3 slogans appear. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. It's pure psychological conditioning.
And this ties directly into the truth about the perpetual war, which Goldstein's Forbidden Book explains.
Right, the theory and practice of oligarchical collectivism. And this is where it gets really interesting.
So what's the truth about the war?
The book reveals the world is split into 3 superstates: Oceania, Eurasia, and Eastasia. And they're all basically the same. Their philosophies, Ingsoc, neo-Bolshevism, death worship, they're indistinguishable. The war is a fraud.
It's not about winning, it's about internal control.
Exactly. Its purpose is purely domestic. Economically, it uses up surplus goods without raising the standard of living. This keeps people poor and anxious. Psychologically, it keeps them in a state of fear and hatred, which is perfect for a hierarchical society.
The war is waged by the ruling group against its own subjects.
Yes. Julia even has the cynical idea that the rocket bombs falling on London are probably fired by Oceania's own government just to keep people frightened.
And they can switch enemies on a dime. There's that scene with the orator during Hate Week.
It's incredible. He's in the middle of a speech denouncing Eurasia. A messenger hands him a note, and without even pausing, he switches the enemy to Eastasia, and the crowd just accepts it.
They immediately start ripping down the wrong posters. It shows the absolute power of the party to just dictate reality.
Which brings us to the one group that's sort of outside this control, the proles.
Winston's great belief, if there is hope, it lies in the proles.
But the reality is different. The party leaves the proles alone. They live in slums. They're obsessed with the lottery, beer, films. They're not revolutionaries.
Proles and animals are free. That's the party slogan.
They're considered beneath suspicion because they're not seen as intelligent enough to rebel. They lack general ideas, so the party doesn't bother indoctrinating them.
But because they were left alone, they kept something the party members lost.
They stayed human. That's the tragic irony. Winston realizes the party members are emotionally empty, but the proles have kept their primitive emotions. Loyalty, love. He remembers his mother protecting his sister over a piece of chocolate.
And then he sees that prole woman singing while she hangs laundry.
That red-armed woman, he describes her body like a block of granite. She's the symbol of enduring life, of real feeling, and he thinks she's beautiful. The party members rule the world, but the proles are the only ones still living in it.
That desire for genuine connection leads Winston and Julia down a path that can only end one way, starting with their affair.
Which is a deeply political act. Julia explains that the party enforces sexual puritanism for a reason. The sex instinct is bottled up and turned into war fever and leader worship.
So to have sex for pleasure is a rebellion, a blow struck against the party.
It's an act of self-assertion,
Yeah.
and that shared rebellion leads them to O'Brien, who they think is part of the Brotherhood.
And O'Brien is the ultimate insider. He can turn off his telescreen. He gives them the test.
A horrifying test. He asks if they're prepared to murder, to sabotage, to throw acid in a child's face for the cause, and they say yes. They agree to everything, not realizing it's a trap.
And the capture is so perfectly timed. In the room above Mr. Charrington's shop.
Who turns out to be a thought police agent, of course.
It happens the second the hidden telescreen finishes that old nursery rhyme. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
A perfect orchestrated betrayal. And it leads them to the Ministry of Love, Middle-earth, where the torture isn't about punishment.
No, O'Brien explains it's about conversion.
He says, we convert him, we capture his inner mind, we reshape him, we make him one of ourselves before we kill him. He explains that old tyrants said, thou shalt not. Modern totalitarians said, thou shalt. But the party says, thou art.
They control existence itself. It's not about obedience. It's about genuine internal belief.
And that's the point of the 4 and 5 finger. O'Brien holds up 4 fingers and uses torture to make Winston truly see 5. He screams at him that reality only exists in the human mind, and the party controls the mind. Sanity is statistical.
Once the mind is broken, the re-education is almost gentle. Good food, new clothes. But there's one last step.
The inner heart, the last fortress of human loyalty. And that has to be destroyed in room 101.
Which contains the worst thing in the world.
For Winston, that's rats. A cage of starving rats about to be released onto his face.
And that's what forces the final betrayal.
He screams it. The only thing that can save him. Do it to Julia, not me. And with that, his last human loyalty is shattered. The party has won.
So we leave Winston after his release. He's at the Chestnut Tree Cafe, a broken man. He's drinking that awful clove-flavored Victory gin. It's just the element he swims in now.
The pain is gone. He's watching the telescreen. A news flash comes on about a great victory in Africa.
That's the moment. He realizes the final, indispensable healing change is complete.
He accepts the party's truth, and then that final horrible sentence, he loved Big Brother.
The cycle is complete. The slogans aren't slogans anymore. They're just truth. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength.
It's total control, achieved not by force alone, but by conquering the mind.
So our deep dive ends there, but the book's appendix on Newspeak leaves us with one final haunting thought. The goal of shrinking the language was to make some crimes, some errors, nameless and therefore unimaginable.
If you can't name rebellion, can you even conceive of it?
So the question for you to think about is this. If the party could shrink language to make resistance literally unthinkable, how dependent is our own sense of freedom, our own reality, on the richness and the precision of the language we have right now? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.